songs, great dancing, great entertainment, but Mary Poppins or Mamma Mia, it is not. This is satire at its raw and rudest. It doesn't only poke fun at the Mormon religion, it pokes fun at just about everything. Not that pokes fun is quite right. It's often savage, profane, pornographic, puerile even. And what it absolutely isn't is a traditional classical musical. And yet, that is exactly what one of its creators, Trey Parker, said they set out to make. He's with me here in the Prince of Wales Theatre, and so is its other creator, Matt Stone. You know the names, by the way. They're the two who gave us South Park. And I've gone out on a limb a bit, Trey, saying it's not a traditional musical, because a lot of people would say it is. It didn't strike me as being one.
When we first sat down, we really tried to think about what it is exactly that we love about musicals. And we took moments from our favorite musicals. Every time we talked about a certain scene, every time we talk about a scene in this show, we'd say, oh, this could be like that part of Sound of Music where,
you're poking fun at it. You're poking fun at the whole musical genre.
But it's just like doing South Park. It's hard to poke fun at something unless you know it pretty well.
I imagine musicals as those evenings when you take your family, you take your old granny or you take your 10-year-old daughter or whatever it happens to be. You don't take your old granny and your 10-year-old daughter to see this, do you?
Well, I don't know. 10-year-old daughter. But... Yeah, not your 10-year-old daughter for sure, but we've seen a lot of old grannies at our show in New York.
I'm not being disrespectful to old grannies, by the way. Let's be clear about that.
It's funny because we did Book of Mormon and I was like, there's going to be like older people coming to this. What do you think they're going to think? And we're like, yeah. And we're like, wait a minute. We're like 42. We're not like, 20-year-old kids going, oh, what are the grown-ups going to think about this?
But you wanted us shocked, didn't you? I mean,
we never sit down and say, okay, what can we do that's shocking? How can we shock?
But I mean, outsized penises and scenes of, well, I won't go into the great details.
Hearing you say it. Yeah. I guess what you're kind of hitting on is that it is unconventional material for a musical. That's sort of the stuff that we love, is taking something that you wouldn't normally think should be in this form.
Well, I mean, one of the running gags is raping babies. There's a reason for it, but nonetheless...
Baby rape is actually necessary to this story. It needs to get that extreme.
Just to be clear, what we're talking about, the beliefs some people held, maybe still hold, in parts of Africa where if you want to avoid getting AIDS, you have to have sex with a virgin.
Yeah, it's shocking and everything, but it's actually more to serve the point of this is a really bad thing that's going on and we've got to fix it.
I mean, the musical is about two white Mormon boys who grow up in Utah, and they're sent to a place with Old Testament problems. It's a musical about religion, and they go to a place where they get to sub-Saharan Africa, to a really bad part of it, and nothing they've been taught helps them at all with these problems. So like Trey said, we kind of had to go to those places, and to pull a punch right there is just something that Trey and I aren't comfortable with.
Now I must be completely devout. I can't have even one shred of doubt. I believe that the Lord God created the universe. I believe...
You attack everything, and you attack from left and right, politically left and right, which is interesting. Not too many people do that in satire, I suppose. But isn't the Mormon Church almost too easy a target? Would you go for Islam, for instance?
This is really a show more about religion. I think we spend the first part of the show kind of making fun of Mormons, but we knew right away.
Making fun of God.
Yeah, basically, because we knew that wasn't going to last. Mormonism is the American religion. It's born and bred in
the
States.
I see what you mean. It is quintessentially American.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Matt and I, growing up in Colorado, right next to Utah, we grew up with a lot of Mormons, and we grew up going to Salt Lake City and seeing all these things and hearing the stories and all of that. And so we had a really good knowledge of Mormons, and honestly, that's why we did them. And Islam, just first of all, we don't know enough about it, and secondly,
you wouldn't take it on, would you? I mean, let's be honest.
We already did. I mean, the only reason we wouldn't is because we already did, and I think that it made such a big deal when we did that I think if we did it again, everyone would be like, oh, those are the guys that take on Islam.
Is there anything that, and this is a much broader question about satire, I suppose, but you have moved satire into a new arena, as it were, using musical, at least as far as I'm concerned. Is there anything that is beyond the boundary for you, where you simply could not go?
As far as subject matter-wise, no. It'd be like you, is there anything that you wouldn't take on, being a news person or journalist? This is what we do. This is how we examine the world. Now, it doesn't mean that every joke within there is right. You have to get a laugh. That's the ultimate arbiter of the whole thing. If it isn't funny, you failed and you fell on your face. So it doesn't mean that every single joke is defendable. We use the word gratuitous in our own discussions about stuff more than anybody, because something that earns its place is for us, the ultimate thing, where you go someplace where you go and get that little bit of discomfort, and you're sitting in your chair going, is this okay? And then you realize that the story has told this story in an organic way. The thing you're watching has earned its place.
Effectively, aren't you saying if people laugh, it's okay? Doesn't matter what they're laughing at.
Because the laugh means something. You know, if they're not laughing, it's because they're thinking, well, wow, that's just gratuitous, and that's not funny, that's not cool, that's not, but that's why they're not laughing.
So
and when they're laughing, like, oh, I get it, okay, yeah.
But I know what you're saying is we do have like, you can have a bunch of Nazis laughing at something that obviously none of us would laugh at and think is it's okay.
You wouldn't make a musical at concentration camp, would you?
I don't know.
A good idea.
I don't know.
Oh.
Yeah, it doesn't scare us more. I don't know.
Yeah, no, maybe. But again, you would have to do our homework. We'd have to do it right.
Thanks both very much indeed.
We're fighting for a cause, but we're really, really nice. We are the army of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.